Well, welcome to the next video in the Nephew Elite series where I teach my nephew to trade. In this video, you'll discover, or I'll be sharing with my nephew, the concept of indicators at a very basic level. So you ready to get going?
Yes, sir.
All right. So probably the best way to explain indicators is it can be a complex subject because indicators are a bunch of different things. So on TradingView, for instance, they call indicators scripts. And the way to look at indicators, and I'll just share at a basic level. So you're seeing, I've created a lot of indicators. When people join the training, they get access to private indicators for the Rexdog trading system. I've created other indicators where it's not quite in the Rexdog trading system, but I just find the market fascinating. So I just create indicators. But TradingView allows you to create indicators and share it with other people.
Okay.
Now what an indicator is it's something that's an additional, or it's an addition to the chart. And the best way to explain this is you're looking at indicators here. Now, TradingView calls them scripts, but any trading platform you get into, they're going to call them indicators.
Okay.
And you're going to learn the most basic indicator. We're going to cover a moving average in this video. But there's really two types of indicators. The way to look at it is there's an on-chart indicator, and that's what you see here. So when you see, like here, I just turned on an indicator right here. And this indicator is my weekly open, high, low, and close.
What did you just call this?
Weekly open, high, low, and close. It's an
Okay.
indicator, and it's an on-chart indicator.
On-chart indicator.
And it's on-chart because it's on the chart.
All right.
And what this indicator does is it shows us the current week open, the current week high, and the current week low, as well as past week opens. So this orange white line you see here is the previous week's opening price.
Okay.
Now, that's an important reaction area. Any day one trader would know that the weekly open's an important level. So if price is above the weekly open, it might continue to go up. If it's below, it might continue to go down. It also acts as a magnet. So I'm just sharing that this is an example of an indicator, and what this indicator is doing is it's showing, like, the current view that you see here. We're looking at Bitcoin. So I use Bitcoin a lot in these videos because Bitcoin is a 24-hour market.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost good to do these training videos where the market is open. So that's why I use Bitcoin a lot. It's not because I do like Bitcoin, but that's the reason why a lot of times we're in the Bitcoin chart, because the market is open and we can kind of see things as they move. So this line here, right around 21,772, is the weekly open of Bitcoin. That's what it opened at on Sunday.
Okay. So the
Now,
purple one's this week?
Well, the purple was last week's close. So this is a little different because it closed and opened at this. Sometimes it closes and opens at different prices. And then this orange one here is the previous week open.
Okay.
Now, I don't want you to get distracted on that other than to know that this is an indicator. So I turn this off. If we didn't have this indicator on the chart, we'd have to guess, or we'd have to know, or we'd have to draw a line. Where is the weekly open?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the previous week open?
Okay.
So that's one of the most basic elements of what an indicator can do. Is it can take the information that's on the chart and then draw other lines, it could draw various things. There's a lot of power in indicators, but this is an on-chart indicator. Now, in TradingView, like I said before, like I shared, we can go through here and you can see a lot of the indicators that people have created. They've named them, they've showed you what they're about. You can get an idea. Usually they show how you would use them. When you're in a chart, up here, where it says indicators, metrics, and strategies, you click on that, and then you can search for indicators. So let's say you find an indicator from someone else that you like, you can favorite it. I could search for the indicators I have under Rexdog, and then we're going to get some of the Rexdog indicators. So for instance, if we do the Rexdog RSI, we'll add an RSI indicator. This is an on-chart indicator. Oh no, this is an indicator that's not, it's on the chart, but it's a separate panel. See how it's a separate panel?
Mm-hmm. It's like underneath the volume.
Yeah. So, but it's a separate panel, meaning that you you could move this up, you can move it around. So you'll see charts a lot of times where they have indicators on the chart and then indicators down below. And these indicators, sometimes they're called oscillators. They have different names.
Mm-hmm.
This indicator is the Rexdog RSI. I don't usually have this indicator on the chart because I have another indicator that what it does is it shares the signals that this indicator provides and it puts it on the chart.
Okay.
So, but what you need to know for indicators is that there's really two types. There's the ones that are on chart, and then there's the ones that are in a separate panel. And what most indicators, I'd say 80% if not more, they're based on data within the chart itself. Remember how I said remember that video where we said what's so powerful about a chart, or is all the information you need is contained on this chart?
Yeah.
Well, these indicators, very seldom do they take data from other sources outside of the chart.
So
Some
80%
of them do.
of the time it's based on that chart.
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them take data like financial data or sales data. But the majority of indicators, what they're really doing is they're just doing calculations and on volume, on ranges, on candle ranges, on various other things. There's philosophies about how indicators should be created. There's even the indicators I've created. So for instance, one of the indicators you're gonna discover is the Rexdog market biased. So this indicator here, if I add this to the chart, so you have access to this in TradingView, this is what it added down here. So see, it's an oscillator, and then this indicator is an oscillator that what it does is it gives you a general idea of what the overall Rexdog system is telling you.
Okay.
I need to refine it. We're on version 3 now, so I'm working on releasing that to make it much more advanced, especially with some new Pine script. The language that they use to create these indicators on TradingView is called Pine script. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
So it's as a programmer, it's not. I'm not going to do that. It's just not the best programming language out there, is what I would say.
Okay.
My personal opinion. So this is an indicator. It's an oscillator. It's a separate panel. And then in every indicator, sometimes you have settings where you can click the settings and then you can change things. Change the colors. You can change the style. You can change when it shows up. Does it show up in certain times, certain days? So some indicators you might not want it to show up on the 4-hour because that indicator is a 4-hour indicator, for instance. So there's a lot of customization you'll get into when you start learning more about TradingView.
More with time, I can see.
Yeah. The one thing I'd share is that you notice I don't have a lot of these on panel indicators. Most of the indicators that I use are on chart.
Yeah, on chart.
I do have charts that I use when I go in to do deep technical analysis on a market, or maybe I'm doing my pre-market analysis, where I have a couple of charts where I do have these lower indicators. But primarily throughout the day, most of my indicators are on chart.
Okay.
Because the other thing, I think I mentioned this in the previous video, which is, so one of the things that people do, just to give you an idea, is that they'll look at an indicator down here, and you'll learn about this indicator, like the RSI or the MACD is another indicator. They'll draw lines on this indicator down here, and to see if there's correlations in the chart. So what you're doing is, okay, there's a peak here, and then there's a peak here. Do I see a peak up here on the chart? And then does that tell me additional information? Okay. Or does this indicator confirm what I see on the chart? You might like that style. I just think that it slows down your decision making.
I like the on chart ones a lot better.
Yeah, but you'll have to figure out whether or not there might be a few indicators that you find that you're like, oh, okay, like that indicator helps me make decisions. So I'm not against it. It's just that I found that the more on chart indicators, the better, or the easier and the less decisions I have to make.
Okay.
So because a lot of the Rexdog trade system is around rules too. So it's rules around where the indicator is. So when you have a panel indicator, then you have to correlate what you see in the panel to what you see above. And then, so it's just a lot of going back and forth. It's just, like I said, it works for some people. To me, it just adds more mental energy that you really don't need to do.
Okay.
So really, that's indicator. I mean, those are indicators in a basic form. One of the most basic indicators I'll introduce you to is called a moving average. SMA, a simple moving average. So if we go here and we click on indicators and we do simple, type in simple moving average. You hear Rex in the background?
Yeah.
Wait, is it not simple? What is it? It's moving average. What do they call it here? Oh, okay, they call it a moving average. They don't call it an SMA. So on TradingView, it's called a moving average. It's really an SMA, a simple, because there's another thing called an exponential. You'll learn the difference between these. But now I just added the moving average to the chart, and you can see here there's a new line on there.
Okay.
Now this is the 9. What I would change this to is I can change that length to 20. So what the moving average is, and I think we talked about this before. This moving average is an average of the last 20 bar closes.
Okay, but
It's
before
the
is
average
the average
price.
of the last 8?
9.
Oh,
Yeah.
9.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So if we put 50 here, if we change this to 50, this would be, you'll see how it kind of slopes out, but that's because it's taking more bars
More
into
average
account.
calculating?
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are elements that you'll learn that we use within the system. These are what's called lagging indicators, and most people think of that as a bad thing. I think that they're just not. When they talk about a moving average as a lagging indicator, the reason why they say lagging is because it doesn't quite keep up with where price is at.
Okay.
But it's actually a strength. If you understand how to use a lagging indicator, it gives you tremendous power in the market if you understand what's happening behind the scenes.
Okay.
So an SMA is a simple moving average. What it's basically doing, if we go back to 20, is it's taking the last 20 bars, the close of the last 20 bars, and then it's averaging it. It's literally just an average. Now, what you can do here is if you really wanted to, you could say, well, I don't want to take the close. I want to use the high. So you see here where it says high or low on the chart here.
Oh, yeah.
I could then say, okay, I don't want to use the
Oh, the closing where you can use the low?
yeah. So now it's using the last 20 closes of every bar.
Okay.
Or the last 20 lows, sorry. Or I could say the high. See how it jumps up? Because obviously the high price is higher. So you could change this. The default is always the close, because remember what I said about the close? It's the most important.
Most important thing.
Yeah. So most indicators, or a lot of indicators, what they'll use is they'll use the close. Now there is a concept here called smoothing. What this does is it basically smooths out the average. There's no need to get into that because you get the basic concept. We'll get into that maybe in an advanced video. It doesn't really matter. You could put this to 0 or 5. It's it doesn't really change much. So I don't know why it's not changing. So I could put it to 1 and then see. So like I said, it's not that much of a difference where it's something you need to be concerned about. The offset here, just so you know, I could offset this. So if I did 10, what it's going to do is it's going to move it over 10 bars.
Oh,
so
okay.
See when I put 0 here, what it does is it aligns it with the current bar.
Okay.
The price is, but if let's say for whatever reason I have a strategy where I want to use an offset, I could do 10, and then basically it's offsetting that by 10 bars in the future. I think you can do negative 10 too. Pretty sure you can. Maybe not. I don't know. I thought you could. Yeah. You could do negative 10. So now it'll offset it by negative 10.
Okay.
So that's what offset does. Like I said, when you get into indicators, you'll jump into these. You can change the color. You can make the line bigger. So we can make it bigger. We can change it to yellow. Now what you'll notice in the what you'll want to do in any trade system you adopt is that your indicators, you want to keep the same colors.
Consistent throughout all your charts.
Yes. That
Okay.
way you know what you're looking at. That way there's never a question. So you'll see that I use dark charts. And so when you use the lighter charts or the white charts, the colors are just a little bit different, but you'll notice the indicators in the red, the RDA, for instance, is always yellow. On every chart you see of mine, it's always, there's never a time where a yellow line is not the RDA.
Okay.
It's that way you can look at any chart, any market, and you know what that is.
All right.
So if you add other indicators that aren't in the system because you like them, just make sure that what you do is you define a color or you define a scheme that doesn't change. Otherwise, you'll be guessing all the time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we'll get into both indicators, on chart and off chart, and talk about some of the individual ones. But so far, I think this is probably a good introduction to indicators. So let's do the recap.
Okay, well, I think the top thing that you pretty much shared with me was indicators or calculations that give you more insight on the chart.
Mm-hmm.
As well, the two different indicators that there are on-chart indicators and separate panel indicators.
Yep.
Also, the majority of indicators make calculations off of the chart. But you said that obviously there's some that don't and take different calculations or take other info from other charts or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
other data sources.
other data sources, yeah. And then one of the indicators you showed me was a simple moving average. This takes the close of the last X amount of bars. I said that because you can obviously change how many bars you go back, and it can be a variety if you offset it, like you said too. But it's also known as a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from this.
No, I think that's the basics. So that's really good. So what we'll do from here is we'll cover just some standard indicators that traders know about.
Okay.
And I'll just share with you the philosophy of why they exist, how people use them, even though we'll never touch them. So,
All right.
all right. So, but knowing, like I said, knowing how I don't want to say enemy, but knowing how your opposition thinks is important. So that's what we'll cover next.
Sweet. Yeah.